as they start a 3-game set tonight at Citizens Bank Park, taking on the Washington Nationals. And that one should be fun to see the Nationals in town. A bidding rivalry as always, Greg. Good to talk to you. How are you, pal?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Always good, man. I know the weather is not great. You're probably still missing Clear. I know you want to get home from Clearwater when you guys are down there. Then you get here and you're ready to go back.
Yeah, we always forget that we can't bring it with us, and it certainly was nice down there. But it's good to be home. It's good to be playing these games for real. No doubt about that.
Well, Murph, obviously, I want to start off with, you obviously get a chance to talk to many of these guys soon as these games are over, and a lot of people talking about Jonathan Papelbon and his comments, but I really want to hear from you as you get to deal with him after, many games. I mean, he gets a lot of saves. You go up and grab him. What is your dealings like with Papelbon and, the time that you've covered him? I mean, I'd heard Mike Schmidt this morning say, look, he's a great guy. If people knew him, you'd really love him, and he's a student. He's very astute, pitching mind, but he's a little bit of a loose cannon. What has your dealings been like in having to interview and talk to Jonathan Papelbon?
Well, I think Mike nailed it on the head. I think that's exactly what he is. But the one thing I always say about Jonathan, and I get asked about him all the time, is that he is a fierce competitor, and he is a guy that you want in your clubhouse, that you want in your dugout, and certainly over the past decade or so that you want on the mound in the ninth inning. He is a mentor to a lot of the young guys in the bullpen, and they'll be the first to tell you that. And I think he is a little bit misunderstood, albeit some of it he's brought on himself. And he, a loose cannon, that's one way to describe it. Sometimes he's a little bit too honest, and we always want athletes to speak their mind, but then when they speak their mind, we're not always happy with what they say. So he's a bit of a mystery sometimes in that, his comments the other day about not feeling like a Philly, that surprised me a little bit because I know he is such a huge part of this 25-man roster. So, and I know he knows that. And so you would think that he would feel a little bit more part of what's going on. But for the most part, if you ask me, Jonathan Papelbon is a guy that you want around, especially in a team that is going to compete for a pennant. He's the kind of guy that you want in your clubhouse and you want on the mound in the ninth.
Well, Murph, in your job, I mean, after these games, I'm sure there's certain guys that are easier to talk to and some guys that are not as easy to talk to. Is that the case with Pat? Was he a guy that you feel very comfortable to talk to after a win?
Yes, now. But that
after a win, I said.
Yeah. There was a time when Jonathan and I, after a game, it would be a dicey situation. I wasn't exactly sure how to handle him, and I'm not sure he knew exactly how to handle me. And it took us a year or two to get to the point where we are now. And I'm very comfortable talking with Jonathan after a game and talking with him, live on the field, where whatever happens. But we've gotten to a point where I think we both kind of understand what the other person is all about. We've had some very fun interviews over the past couple of years where, he's having a good time, and I certainly am happy to do that kind of interview. We've also had ones where he's been very serious, and they've been good too. So it took a little time to get to that point, but I think we're there now.
I know, he said, I don't feel like a Philly. And I said, he's going into his 4th year. I mean, that's kind of shocking, or as you said, you're a little bit surprised. Brad Lidge was here for half a year, and I think felt like a Philly almost immediately, to the point where he might feel like a Philly more than an Astro. He won a World Series here. Now, do you think if the team was more successful that the fans would take to Papelbon more than they do because the team is not successful?
I do. I think that is a huge part of the disconnect if there is a disconnect, and I think there is one slightly, if there is a disconnect between the fans and Jonathan Papelbon, I do think it would be different if the team was playing better. When he arrived, he and I arrived at the same time, and the decline began in that season, 81 and 81, I believe, that year, and has gotten, progressively worse over the last couple of years. So he hasn't had a chance to be a part of the success that was in Philadelphia, and that makes a huge difference. Let's be honest. Fans are a lot more apt to look past something if the team is winning, and I think a lot of what Jonathan has done over the past couple of years probably would have been appreciated or at least kind of laughed off if the team was in a better spot. So I think that's part of it. Jonathan has done a couple of things over the years that he probably wishes he hadn't, or certainly the team wishes he hadn't. But, at the end of the day, I do think if there was a better feel around the team in terms of winning ball games, then the relationship between the fans and Jonathan Papelbon would be much better, because he would be such a huge part of that. He's come in and done his job over the last 4 years, and he's done it well.
No doubt.
It just hasn't translated into enough wins, and I don't think you can put that at the feet of Jonathan Papelbon.
No doubt. He has done his job. Whether he wants to be here or not, he is still, you can't fault him for not doing his job out there. He has been one of the more successful guys over these last 3 years. Let's talk about his possible successor, Ken Giles, who you saw in spring training right at the end there, and he did not look great the other night. And I don't know that there was a time last year when he came into a game that he didn't look magnificent. What is your feeling on Ken Giles and where he is health-wise?
Well, he's certainly someone we're keeping our eye on, that's for sure. He was such an explosive presence last year when he arrived. He threw his first batter, he let up a home run, and I don't think he did anything anything negative after that. It certainly didn't feel like it for the rest of the season. There are high expectations for Giles, and I think those are warranted. I think he's going to be a terrific player for a long time to come. He says right now what is going on with him is mechanical. He can't put his finger on it, or at least he's not talking publicly about what it is exactly, but it is a mechanical issue. He says he feels 100%. And Ryan Sandberg said something interesting yesterday when we talked to him before the game. He said, if you go back and look at Ken Giles in April last year, he was struggling a little bit to find his command, to find that fastball, to master the slider to the point where he had it, in June and July and August of last year. So, maybe he's just a guy that, can't pitch in the cold weather, or he's a guy that needs a little bit extra time to get ready out of spring training. We didn't see him at this time last year, so we don't really know. But if you talk to Ken and you take him at his word, and I do, he's healthy and he feels fine. He just needs to figure out something mechanical that's going to get the ball down a little bit, and his velocity is going to pump up a little bit as well. He hit 97 on the gun in his first outing the other day. That was the first time we've seen that this year. So I would imagine with another 2 or 3 outings, he's going to get up to 98, 99, where we kind of are accustomed to seeing him.
Murph, Don Brown 0 for 2 last night, but just to see him out there, and 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts, but just to see him out there playing, I guess, is a good thing, because like Mike Schmidt said this morning, he was talking about how Brown is one guy that does have upside, who is still, under that 30-year-old range, and apparently these guys worked, and Dominic worked specifically with Mike Schmidt down in Clearwater this year. Do you anticipate to see a different Don Brown? Because it doesn't seem like a lot of people have a lot of high expectations for him anymore.
Well, and that might be a good thing for Dom, to come in a little bit under the radar and just kind of come out and do his thing. You're right. He worked this year in spring training. The Phillies did something a little bit different. They worked in what they called hitting pods, and each pod was about 5 or 6 guys, and each pod had a specific coach assigned to them, whether it be Charlie Manuel or Mike Schmidt. I believe, certainly Steve Henderson and John Miserak, our 2 hitting coaches. So they all had different guys they were working with. Dom was working with Mike. Mike and he have struck up a relationship over the last couple of years. And I'm not going to argue with Mike Schmidt. If he says that Don Brown's got an upside, I'm going to believe him, because the man knows hitting. So I think it might be a good thing for Dom to there are other guys on this team that, are under the microscope right now. So maybe Dom gets himself healthy, comes back, and if people don't expect too much, that might be a good thing for him. He is a young guy. We've seen flashes of what he is capable of doing. He needs to make an adjustment. The pitchers have certainly made an adjustment against him at this point. He needs to now make an adjustment against the pitchers. And if he's able to do that, there's no reason to believe why he can't get back to where he was. But he's going to have to do it. And we haven't seen it yet, so we got to wait and see.
Gregg Murphy is with us, part of the Phillies Broadcast Team. Phillies and the Nationals tonight. Jerome Williams will pitch against former Phil Gio Gonzalez. And we saw the Nationals in their first matchup against the Mets, and Matt Harvey looked fantastic yesterday. And you see some of these young guys out there performing at that level. I'll ask you, Murph, the Phillies have one young guy in the minors, Aaron Nola. Would you like to see him up here and performing at the big league level sooner before later?
Well, I would if he's ready, no doubt about it. I think it would be terrific to see a guy like Aaron Nola. But I will say this: I don't agree with you that we have one young guy down there. I think they have a couple of young guys down there that they're very high on.
Yeah.
Jesse Biddle. For whatever reason, people are forgetting about Jesse Biddle, who had a real good spring, a former number one pick, who had his share of control problems and off-the-field problems over the last year and a half. But he seems – I got a chance to talk to Jesse on several different occasions in spring training, and he just seems to be right where he needs to be. So I wouldn't sleep on him. He's a guy that in a year or two could be part of this rotation. And a couple of the guys that got back in some of these trades, they're very high on as well. So – That rotation in Reading, Pennsylvania, for the Reading Fighting Phils this year is going to be something Phillies fans should keep their eye on, because those are 5 guys that the organization believes can make an impact over the next couple of years. And Aaron Nola would be one of those. We saw a glimpse of him in spring training. He was exactly as advertised. He gets the ball over the plate. He works quickly. He's got pinpoint control. He doesn't have overpowering stuff, but he's got good stuff, and he's able to throw it where he wants, when he wants. And that's an important part of pitching at the major league level. So they're not going to rush him, that's for sure. They're going to want to make sure that he is ready, especially if things don't go as well as hoped early in the season. You're not going to see a guy like Aaron Nola just come up here just for the sake of coming up. So Phillies fans are going to have to be patient with these guys, but within a year or two, I would expect that a couple of these young guys are going to be up here and making a difference.
Good stuff. Gregg Murphy and the team will have the call tonight, Phillies and the Nationals, and we'll be talking to Murph about the Phillies and their season, which I'm sure, much like many of the Philadelphia sports scenes, Murph, always filled with some sort of drama along the way, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about the trade deadline and things coming up along the way, but always good to hear from you, and obviously great insight on dealing with Papelbon and some of the other guys. Great stuff, man.
My pleasure, Mike. I look forward to doing it with you every Friday, and they'll keep it interesting, that's for sure. We know we're going to have stuff to talk about.
No doubt. Thanks, Murph.
You got it, Mike.
He's right.